It's midweek. We're with Max. It's midweek with Max. I'm Rick, your community manager here at Hemi, along with my colleagues and friends and community members, and we're just going to kick things off right now. So passing the mic to Batman and Max.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week. Quick update on the engineering side. Just been working a lot towards mainnet launch, getting everything stable, improving RPC performance, upgrading our infrastructure, doing some various behind the scenes security, auditing, checking, things of that nature, and testing the Bitcoin tunnel. So that's going to be going live on testnet for people to play with very soon. And also been working with a lot of partners who are onboarding. So I think we'll have a very rich set of DeFi primitives and other apps on day one. So that's all exciting and looking good. And we also, if anyone met up with any of our team, we were in Miami for the WAGMI conference last week. That went well. We did a Bitcoin supper club there with a couple of key Hemi partners came by and chatted. And so it was good to meet them in person, talk about some of the future plans for Hemi there. And yeah, working towards mainnet very quickly. We announced the node sale, which we'll talk about later today as well. And Rick, so we got a lot of questions about that. So we'll go through that. And with all that, I'll hand it over to Phil for a marketing update.
All right, guys. I promised last week that we were going to kick up our partnership announcements, and kick up we did. You'll notice that we've been announcing about one a day, up from our once about every 3 days clip. So people are responding to what we have to say. And actually, if you saw the news, I think it ran yesterday, right? We've got our first three-way partnership with exSAT and KiKi. So that is, again, hats off to the biz dev team. They've just been absolutely killing it. My Telegram chats are absolutely overloading, on fire, nuclear with how hard these guys are working. Later last week, we had our first partner AMA. So I saw a lot of familiar faces here, talking with Layer Zero and Layer Bank. So we're going to have a lot more of those. Please stay tuned. And also, we, as promised, put out the Reflexivity Research Report, which is free for anybody to download. It's also available in its entirety on Twitter. And so, if you want to introduce Hemi to any of your very crypto friends, please do so. It's got all the detail you could ever need in there. So please give that a look. And it was a real pleasure working with Reflexivity on that piece. This marks our second research report, the first one being the DL News one that ran around October, November timeframe. And right now we are absolutely laser focused on partner success, frankly. So we will be as successful as we make our partners successful. And so that's a lot of the marketing team's time right now, in addition to supporting the node sale. So really proud of the team, really proud of how far we've come. And we're going to continue pushing into this year. Just a lot of really, really great momentum.
Awesome. Sounds great, both of y'all. Without further ado, I think we should just dive into questions because they keep coming in. Joshua was kind enough to start feeding them to me, and I'm now on page 4. So we'll try to get through as many as possible. Just an apology in advance if we don't cover them, but we're trying to get through as many as possible. And with that, I'll shut up and start asking. So let's cover the standards first, and then we can move on to the new biz, if you will. Do we have a mainnet date set that we can share publicly? The question is, when is mainnet expected to release?
We don't have a finalized date yet, but we're looking at sometime mid-February, so in the next basically 3 weeks.
Super exciting. Following up to that, TGE, do we have a target projection for that?
Similar, nothing set in stone, but shortly after mainnet, probably anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks, but still TBD.
Love that for us. When will the pop miner work again?
It should be partially working, and we're doing some infrastructure stuff today, so hopefully this afternoon everything will be fully back to normal.
Excellent news. Will the faucet reopen?
Probably not, given testnet timing or mainnet timing and the timing of the end of testnet season around that. TBD, we may do something, but all engineering resources are working towards mainnet launch right now, so probably not. And we'll probably do some sort of adjustment on the point side. We are going to be crediting people with their pop points by the end of the week, so those will show up in Absinthe. And we'll probably do something around that to anyone who was, largely relying on the faucet earlier, give them some extra points for the mining that they did during the time that the faucet was open, to try to round some of those edges. But faucet probably not coming back, just given mainnet timing.
Totally understandable. But yeah, mods, that's the new go-to. Probably not returning. Will there be a native token for the Hemi network?
There will, not on launch day, but eventually with TGE coming, within 1 to 2 months after mainnet launch day. In the meantime, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and people were confused about the mechanics of how things will work. So ETH is the native gas token of the network. So that's, when you open MetaMask and you see a balance, that will be an ETH. And then when the Hemi Hemi network token eventually launches, then that will be an ERC20 that lives both on Ethereum and on the Hemi network. So you'll be able to move it between those two networks and the rest of the ecosystem through, layer 0 and Hyperlane and stuff like that. But you'll also be able to use the Hemi token for gas payments. We're still working out the exact mechanics on how that's going to work from a user perspective. But economically, basically, you'll get a discount for paying network fees in Hemi tokens. And if you pay in ETH, they're going to get converted to Hemi tokens and then paid out to the network protocol revenue pile, which we'll talk about the economics of that in the near future. But basically, if you pay in the Hemi tokens, you won't be going through that conversion process. And so that's where the effective discount comes in for paying transaction fees in Hemi tokens. But on mainnet day one, it'll be Ethereum as the gas token and no Hemi token until 1 to 2 months, probably post mainnet.
Solid. All right, we got 2 more of the standards. Will users who participate in the pilot program receive a reward of native tokens?
Can't announce anything in particular, but it is a incentivized testnet.
Totally reasonable. And finally, do we have a VB update for Poison?
Nothing yet, but stuff's moving behind the scenes, so hopefully very soon.
All right, moving on to new biz. There seems to be a new wallet connection error related with Absinthe. Is there a projection of when this will be solved? There seems to have been 100+ reports of this error.
Not super integrated on the Absinthe side. I know they've been doing a lot of behind the scenes changes and upgrades, so it's probably related to that. But I'll have the guy in our team who's largely interfacing with them and managing a lot of the points program reach out and try to get an answer on that.
Sounds good. Right. Can you share why the RPC isn't currently working? And is there a projection of when we can expect the RPC to be back?
Yep. Overall, it is functional, but it's not fully scaled out. So when there's a lot of demand, a lot of usage spikes, it basically fills up and can't respond to everybody. We're scaling that out more right now. I think on our backend, we're handling about 2,000 requests per second. just on the Ethereum RPC side. And then I forgot the exact number of requests, but something like 400 million incoming PopMiner requests a day. And so it's just a lot of traffic, and we also move some infrastructure stuff around. The change we're making today that I talked about earlier is using a modified version of ProxyD. So we made some performance improvements using a different HTTP library for shuffling traffic around. And basically that acts as a load balancer in front of a bunch of RPC nodes. So on the Ethereum opgeth style RPC side, that should give us a lot of extra scalability there. We're running performance tests and getting anywhere from 10 to 20,000 requests per second. And that's with a realistic blend of calls. There's some Ethereum calls that are a lot more expensive, like getting logs or doing a debug, trace transaction execution call, things like that. And so we have a good blend of those that we've been testing with. So it's not just testing with get chain ID or like get latest block height. And we're getting about 10 to 20,000 requests with that. That new system should be activated later today, and that'll also. We do have some new stuff on the BFG infrastructure side that we're also going to be putting into place that should improve the PopMiner performance, hopefully later today or early tomorrow. And that will be our RPC mainnet quality infrastructure. So that should work. Obviously, we want to do it in testnet and make sure everything's good to go, but that will be basically the scaled out RPC infrastructure that we're going to use for mainnet day one as well.
Awesome. So community, standby an RPC and PopMiner fix is coming soon.
Also related to the RPC, there's been some people reporting issues with the fee estimation. So if you're interested in the mechanics, the reason that's happening is basically the Hemi network. There's a lot of peaks and valleys in the usage, and there's a lot of people, running automated scripts that are creating transactions that are pretty gas fee optimized. And so what's happening is the RPC is reporting a fee based on the current network conditions. But then by the time your transaction propagates, whether that's a couple seconds or whatever, in that amount of time, the base gas fee of the network increases, so your transaction can't get processed until it drops back down. So if you happen to send a transaction as the gas is increasing, MetaMask by default uses the low fee estimate that's provided by the RPC endpoint. Some other wallets may behave differently. I'm not sure exactly what the fee handling with Rabi wallet is, but if you're using MetaMask, for now you can solve that by just choosing a higher gas fee. So instead of the defaults, choosing aggressive, the one with the little ape icon, or entering a gas limit manually that's 10-15% higher than what you're currently seeing on the Explorer. And from a gas perspective, you only pay the amount of gas unless you do a tip. A tip's separate, and that always gets paid. But if you do a higher base gas, you only get charged the amount that's actually needed to propagate the transaction on the network. So you're not going to lose. It's not like a Bitcoin fee where whatever you enter is the fee that gets paid. And you can do that to increase the propagation and getting it included into a block. We are going to make some changes on the RPC side to give a little higher estimates to wallets like MetaMask. So hopefully for more users, that's abstracted away eventually. But if you're having issues with that, choose a higher gas fee. It's just due to peaks and valleys in gas basically on the network. So not a lot we can do, but we are going to try to update the RPCs to report a little more conservative, as in higher gas estimates to wallets to make that easier for people.
Awesome update. Thank you. Will points from Season 1 testnet and Season 2 mainnet be separate or combined?
There will be separate piles. So the way it's going to work is the rewards for Season 1 are going to be, testnet Season 1. That's going to be one pile, and people will basically share in those rewards based on their points relative to the entire pile, obviously deduplicated and anti-sybiled with Deimos. And then the mainnet season will have a separate dedicated rewards pile, which will be split amongst all the mainnet participants. So two different piles. Testnet points and mainnet points are not the same, and they also probably won't be the same between mainnet season 1, mainnet season 2, or any future seasons. Each season is its own allocation of rewards and its own point value in that rewards relative to the entire pile of that season.
All right, here is a brief segue, kind of related, but also getting more into the nodes. Are more rewards allocated for testnet participants or node buyers?
Good question. They are very different because the testnet incentives are basically for testnet season 1, which is ending and was time boxed between basically mid-July and shortly before mainnet launch. Whether that's probably like anywhere from 2 to 5 days before mainnet launch. So roughly, what's that, 7-month period? The node sale incentives are based on basically ongoing protocol emissions. So they're coming from an entirely different pile. The economics are different. Those are rewarding people for interacting with and being a part of the network for longer periods of time, up to I'm not sure if we announced the actual timing, but several years for the longer node license. So they will be different. Can't speak to the exact numbers, and nothing's finalized at the moment, but the economics and the motivation behind where those rewards come from are very, very different. So more details soon. We'll be announcing the testnet season economics at some point. I'm not sure if it's going to be next week, the week after, but probably relatively soon. And then the node sale, will be giving more detail on that probably in the next week here.
Awesome. I do have some more node sale questions, but with that information you just provided, if something can't be answered, that's completely understandable. But can you share how much a node will cost?
We can't share that at the moment, but we'll be announcing all of those details very soon.
Will there be any sort of whitelist for the node sale?
We're still finalizing the mechanics. Can't really answer that. There will be. We're trying to design it so that anyone who does want to participate has a fair chance. It's not, obviously there's only so many nodes, and if 100,000 people show up, there's not 100,000 nodes. But we are trying to structure it so that anyone who does want to participate has a good chance of participating. I'm not sure if we've announced this detail yet, but I don't think this would be an issue to share. The node sale will 99% probability be on Arbitrum with USDC. So if you want to get your wallet ready, that is how you'll participate in the node sale. And we'll announce the actual structure and mechanics soon. We're still finalizing one or two things on that side, but high level, we're trying to make sure everyone who does want to participate gets in, and we're doing the allocations in such a way that it favors, well, not favors, but it makes sure that smaller participants can get in and basically get a wide distribution of node licenses versus, somebody coming in and taking the entire sale. So more details coming soon, but we are trying to structure it around making sure a lot of people are able to get in if they want to.
Awesome. All right. I believe this one is more a Phil question. Come mainnet, would we be looking to expand moderators, especially for localized language channels?
I think out of necessity, absolutely. I mean, our current team does an amazing job, but obviously, as we start to attract people from more countries speaking different languages, maybe have different traditions and rules around crypto, et cetera, we'll absolutely, again, by necessity, need to expand that group.
Awesome. And when we have details, we'll certainly share that in Discord. We'll probably update the current mod application form just to see which gaps need to be filled. But yes, coming soon. And by that I mean after mainnet, when All right. So why did you choose 10 billion as the token supply?
Good question. It's not a perfect science. It's kind of arbitrary. If you want to be pedantic, it's actually 10 billion times 10 to the 18th, because that's the way decimals work for a standard ERC20. A lot of it is just, market direction, what people are doing, what plays well, what, allows people to have a sizable portion of tokens and not make it some, crazy low float. I think we've seen extremes on both ends of the scale with even thinking back to like the urine finance days with whatever tiny little float they had versus, things that emit, hundreds of quadrillions of tokens. And I don't think either of those models have really played out well. So it's, somewhere in the middle of what's reasonable and expected. But yeah, there's not some, divine reason for it. It is largely just a somewhat arbitrary decision around, how things look, various price and, value models of some sort. But yeah, it's relatively arbitrary. It doesn't really matter whether there's 1 million or 100 billion for network security or how the protocol functions, but it's roughly in line with what other people are doing that has worked well in the past. So
okay, can you share when tokenomics are expected to be published?
Not an exact date. Again, probably not the best answer, but coming soon, and it will come in parts. So we'll be announcing a lot of the tokenomics soon as part of the node sale initiative. That's not going to be everything, and there's still some tokenomics that are going to probably not be finalized until at TGE or even a while past that. Stuff like revenue for different types of staking, the different types of staking systems that'll be supported. At a high level, we're working on what we're calling kind of code name internally. I'm not sure if this is the public branding, but converged staking system, where basically you can stake once and then it's kind of like restaking, but more at a core blockchain protocol level. And so you'd be able to basically stake and then opt into different activities that help secure the network. So whether that's doing something with providing economic liquidity on cross-chain tunneling protocols, or whether that's related to doing decentralized batching or publisher roles, whether that's doing state challenges on Ethereum mainnet, something involving sequencing or transaction routing or batching. So there's a lot of open items there on the DAO incentive side that we're working through, but I think the system is going to be a good balance of making it easy for people to stake and get revenue from the protocol, but then also power users or people who want to be very involved and do a lot of things on the network, making that an option for them without them having to choose whether they go and stake in this protocol or that protocol. So more details on that. That probably won't be fully fleshed out for quite a while, but a lot of the higher level tokenomics, like obviously the total supply is already floating around. A lot of the buckets and allocations and things of that nature will be announced alongside the node sale. And then some of that stuff may still be subject to change because there's a lot of external factors to it as well, especially with, integration with services that require certain token economics for them to be able to integrate you. And so some of that may be a little fluid, but we should have a lot of details coming with the additional node sale announcement, which will be coming out probably in the next week or so.
Awesome. So it sounds within the next week or so, we're going to have a lot of announcements coming, everyone. So just give a little patience, but, insert SoundCloud rapper rubbing hands, big things coming. All right, I got two more, and then we're going back to Node Land. Is there any news for Earth, Water, Fire, and Air Hemi NFT holders, and any updates on the NFT you mentioned a couple weeks back? I think they're talking about the Sepolia one.
Nothing concrete on the NFT side. We are going to be doing something fun with the Hemi hatchlings NFTs for mainnet, or not sure the timing, but after mainnet, we're going to be doing something fun with those. Sepolia NFTs, everything's built internally. I'm not sure what the status is on launching that, but that'll may coincide with mainnet launch.
Order for Billy?
But I'm not
nice
100% sure on those plans.
White mocha. What did you just say?
All right.
Everywhere I go,
Will there
I
be
see
any
him.
future
More.
pre-sales?
Any future pre-sales?
I hate
Night wind took sweat.
Nothing at the moment planned or concrete.
I can't
Things
help but
shift,
feel that
so
it's some
who knows
kind
what's going
of
to happen in the
sign.
future. But right now, we are just focused on the node sale component.
I'm glad you brought up the node sale because I got some more stuff for that. Are there any countries excluded from the node sale in Impossible Finance, it says?
There will be. The list has not been finalized with legal, but we will be announcing that along with all the tokenomics information in the next week or so. But yes, there will be a list of excluded countries. Obviously, that unfortunately, that's just the way that you have to do node sales compliantly these days. And so, yeah, there will be an excluded list, TBD on the what exact countries are on that list.
All right. This is a really good question, especially for community members new to the crypto space. What is a node? What does it do? And how does it differ from pop mining? Which is often
good
referred
question.
to as
I
the Hemi
probably
node.
should have. Yeah, I probably should have started with an overview of what the node sale actually is and how it works. So nodes, basically, it's a NFT. Mechanically, you get an NFT license that lets you do something that's of value to the protocol and earn revenue as long as you're performing that task. And what that is specifically, in the early days, it'll be running a RPC node. And so you'll basically be running a slice of the Hemi stack, basically op node and op geth, and joining a decentralized RPC cloud, if you want to call it that, where people can, developers, users, like in MetaMask, you go and you type in testnet.rpc.hemi.network/RPC. There will also be a decentralized RPC endpoint that routes traffic to this cloud of all these node providers who are running nodes and serving those RPC requests. And then when we decentralize the sequencer, then the node license will convert, may not be the right word, but basically allow you to be a sequencer on the network. And so you'll still be running a node, op node and op geth, but instead of just serving RPC, you'll be creating blocks for the network through a proof of stake style consensus mechanism. And that'll let you extract transaction fees from those transactions, or tips rather, receive a portion of the, depending on the node tier, a portion of the protocol revenue, which is the base fees that the network collects, and then also receive that basically block creation subsidy. So economically, the rewards, whether we're in the RPC node period or the decentralized sequencer, the economics are pretty similar. In the RPC node side, once we announce the basically reward allocation and what that schedule looks like for each of the node tiers, you'll be receiving that for running the RPC node. And then when we decentralize the sequencer, you'll be earning that plus the ability to collect those basically tips from users on the network. And as far as the tiers, the way those work is they're basically different life cycles. And so the shortest node license and the longest living node license will give you different amounts of time that you can run a node for. The reward schedules will be different based on the tier, basically. And then the longer tiers will have a revenue split. And so we'll announce details on that soon. But basically, the protocol, the way L2s work as a protocol is they run, users pay transaction fees. That base transaction fee goes into the protocol as revenue. And so a portion of that will be split amongst all active node participants on certain distribution schedules. So basically, you're earning the direct Hemi tokens that are promised as part of the node sales, earning from the network, basically emissions, plus that revenue that's dependent based on the total demand for using the network.
Really appreciate that explanation. And I imagine that that'll be a really good clip that we'll be able to share around too, because a lot of folks had questions regarding that. On the same topic of nodes, what will happen to unsold nodes and the rewards allocated to these unsold nodes? And I'll disclaimer with if there are any left over.
Not sure on that. They may be either reserved for a future sale or just burnt. So TBD on that detail. But basically, when you buy a node, you will be getting the economics that come with that node, basically. And so whether you're the only person who buys one or whether they sell out in 3 seconds, either way, you'll be getting the same rewards for that node per what the node is scheduled to get from protocol emissions. The only exception there being the protocol revenue split may be different if there's less participants. I'm not sure if we're going to scale that down. We haven't finalized on those token economics yet, but all that will be announced in the near future.
Sounds good. Okay. I just lost my spot. Give me 10 seconds. I am so sorry. There are a lot of questions here. What are the percentages of the allocation for the native Hemi token? How much will be for testnet and how much for mainnet incentives? I'm assuming that's going to be coming soon with the rest of the information, but I'd be remiss not to ask.
Yeah, that'll be announced soon. That'll also be separate from the economics for the node sale. So that may come later, closer to mainnet launch or whatever. But we will announce that soon. It's actually internally, it's still not finalized, and it's going to depend, like I've said in previous weeks, on how many people actually complete Demos verification. So the total incentives we want to give out depends on how many unique participants there actually are, basically. So numbers not finalized, will be announced soon, and that will be a separate economics announcement from the overall network economics that we'll announce as part of the node sale.
All right. If I cannot run a node 24/7, can I still become a validator?
Good question. So we are going to do something for people to be able to basically stake their nodes or use services that run nodes on your behalf. So anyone who doesn't want to maximize the rewards you get, you will want to run your own node. But if you don't want to run your own node, we will have ways for you to basically pool it with people who specialize in running nodes, whether that be a dedicated service who runs the node on your behalf, or whether that be staking the node on another network participant that's running a node and basically sharing a portion of your rewards for using their infrastructure. So you don't have to run a node, but running the node yourself will maximize the rewards because you're not splitting it with somebody else who's doing that infrastructure bit for you.
Teamwork makes the dream work. All right, here we go. Seeing as rewarding users is crucial to the economy of a project, where low rewards result in disappointment, while high rewards could cause the token price to dump. What consideration went into the incentives for testnet users and soon-to-be mainnet users?
It's a good question. It's definitely tricky, and it's not a perfect science. So that's a part of why it's also taken so long. Is we're still working through that. And again, that's why I said it depends on how many unique individuals are actually verified as part of the testnet season 1. So yeah, it's very tricky. I think most networks, they either over allocate, and you're not going to make everybody happy, but we're trying to take into account the actual amount of work that people on testnet did to earn those rewards. Was it 3 minutes of work each day, or was it an hour? And obviously different tasks are different amounts of times, and those don't always correlate to points, and everything is ultimately based on the points in the season. But yeah, we're trying to balance the actual effort that goes into it, the benefits that testnet bring, that testnet load testing and everything brings to the network, and allows us to test to make sure everything's good to go for mainnet launch. So it's not a perfect science, but we are trying to be cognizant of the time that goes into it, the benefit the protocol gets out of it, and also making sure that we're not, if we gave out all of the tokens like that, obviously wouldn't work, and wouldn't, you'd have a bunch of stuff worth nothing. And so trying to balance those, but more details on that soon. Trying to do a decent, fair job of it, but it is not a perfect science, and you're not going to make everybody happy.
All right. Have you estimated how much USD in IFIA we will need to stake to be eligible for one passport at $500?
So for the, I do not know how the economics are going to work on the impossible finances sort of, I don't know what the word is, subsale or whatever. So I have no details to share on the IFII or anything like that. I'm sure we'll announce that, or Impossible Finance will announce that as part of the token economics piece, but I do not have insights on that at the moment.
Totally fair. So there's a few questions that seem to be tied together, and to skip some redundancy, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it like this. With mainnet coming soon, what would you say would be the most important things testnet users and community members could do in preparation for
everything
mainnet?
from the stage, except the stuff we care
That's a good
about the
question.
most? Without cables,
I mean,
and
high
wires,
level, we've
what would be
announced a
left?
ton of partnerships, and so I think
It would be
people at this
us
point have a pretty
and you.
decent idea of what's going to be available, day one. We will have, I'll put this high level, and again, not all of this is finalized with the exact tokens that'll be supported and in what amounts and how exactly the mainnet season 1 incentives are going to be allocated. Some of that's still up in the air, but high level, there's going to be a large focus on all of the Bitcoin ecosystem tokens, whether that's, your traditional, wrapped Ethereum type tokens, the Bitcoin LSTs and LRTs. So we're going to be doing a lot of incentives around bringing those over to the network and doing something with them. And what that something is, there will be a staking system that you can stake in and get incentives. There will be things you can do for providing liquidity on lending markets and DEXs. The incentives will be allocated based on the economic value that what you're doing brings to the network. So some things are, for the same 1 Bitcoin or whatever, have different amounts of economic value to the protocol. We're trying to create deep liquidity and kind of be this epicenter of, as many of the Bitcoin assets as we can to let people trade between them, do something useful with them, stake them. And so I'd say high level, if you, read through our partner list, see the projects that we're already working with. There's a lot more of those. I think we're announcing a partner a day right now, so there's more coming out as well. And if you want to participate, those will be largely the assets that are supported and incentivized, and then it'll be on the protocols that we're announcing, like Sushi, the various lending protocols that we have deploying on Hemi. So stay tuned. I would focus mainly on the Bitcoin assets. We will be doing stuff around Ethereum assets as well, but a large amount of the focus will be on the Bitcoin-based assets, at least initially. And I would also mention, this isn't something for preparing for mainnet, but the way the incentives will work is they will change over time. So you'll want to be, you don't want to just put your assets somewhere and then leave for 6 months and come back. We will be changing points allocations based on what activities we're seeing are bringing value to the network. So for example, if we started out incentivizing liquidity and, lending protocols and DEXs equally, and there's an asterisk, you can't really do that because V3 positions, it also depends on, how close to the spread you are and whatnot. But, say those were equal, and then we noticed that, the exchange volumes bring a lot of users to the network to trade in these different Bitcoin assets. But there's not a lot of, borrowed demand for those on the lending protocols. We're going to shift incentives towards what's actually bringing more people into the ecosystem using Hemi. So high level answer, focusing a lot on the Bitcoin assets. There will be stuff for Ethereum too, but I would in particular keep an eye on the Bitcoin asset side. Plan to, if you want to, maximize points, focusing on things that create economic value like DEXs and lending protocols, and make sure that you're staying tuned with the incentives and how they're shifting. And obviously we'll, be announcing and communicating those, but pay attention to those because that'll, as the incentives shift around, you'll want to make sure that you're allocating assets to the things that are obviously within your risk profile, but also get you, the most amount of points versus a protocol that we're not incentivizing as heavily.
Really appreciate that. There's just been a lot of questions from long-term testnet users, new testnet users, community in general, regarding almost like a prep list of what they can do prior to mainnet. So appreciate that response. what are the hardware requirements to run a node?
Good question. We'll announce actual details on that later, but something like terabyte of SSD, probably 2 to 4 cores depending on your processor, at least 8 gigs of RAM, probably preferably 16. But we'll be not sure if this is going to come along with the token economics, but we'll be communicating more stuff about the node hardware requirements. They shouldn't be insane. It should be the kind of thing you could rent a decent VPS relatively cheap and run the node on. So it's nothing like running a Solana node where you basically need a supercomputer. But yeah, it is, being an L2 stack, there's a lot of different pieces, and also depending on how into it you want to get, the bare minimum is running opnode and opgeth. And right now, as a reference, we're running those for the testnet, handling basically the load on testnet. We're running those on 8 gig machines right now with 2 to 4 cores. And again, probably 16 is preferable for, mainnet eventually with increased load and whatnot on the mainnet network. But you can also run other parts of the stack too. So if you want to not rely on, a third-party Ethereum RPC provider, you can run your own Ethereum node. If you want to peer your node directly with your own Bitcoin node instead of just peer-to-peer with the overall Bitcoin network, you can run a Bitcoin node. And obviously, if you choose to run those extra components for increased reliability on your side, that will have additional requirements. But the bare minimum will be just running opnode and opgeth, which is, you're not going to run it on your phone, but it's a relatively lightweight node compared to, Solana and things of that nature. But more details on that soon. We'll probably have recommendations for what specific VPSs, if people do want to run those on popular providers, are sufficient to run the node on. And then from the incentive side, for running an RPC node, we'll announce more details on this, but high level, you'll be measured by, being on the latest block, or, in sync with the network basically, and providing some level of RPC traffic, but you're not going to get extra rewards for running it on some 64 core monster machine that can serve an insane number of RPS. So relatively lightweight. We'll provide details, but running it on an Intel NUC, something of that nature, should be totally fine.
All right, and we just have one more question, also related to the node sale. Is there any plans to expand the node sale to other platforms such as Legion, or will it be exclusively where it lies now, which is Impossible Finance?
At the moment, just with Impossible Finance. Yeah, we're familiar with them. We like the way that they structure sales. They've, everything's worked in the past from a tech perspective. It's reliable. So going with them for the sale. If there's any platforms people are interested in buying the node, and not really platforms like an Impossible Finance, but more of like Arbitrum with USDC. If there was a lot of demand for another way to buy the nodes, that's something that we could consider. But for right now, it is just Arbitrum with USDC using Impossible Finance's tech stack and infrastructure.
All right. And it wouldn't be Midweek with Max if I didn't say that was the last question and then have another one. So in the interest of not lying, here we go. How many pop miners should each person run? I'm currently running 15 with different wallets, but I can't figure out how to add them all to Absinthe.
So for testnet, the general recommendation is just run one. Some people have run multiple, basically giving them more keystones mined. The way that so whether you want to run 1 or 10 is up to you. There are some benefits to running more, but the important part to understand is that the way the incentives are going to be distributed, it's going to be de-sybiled basically with our partner platform Deimos. And so there will be a maximum number of points that you could have earned per day for pop mining. And so if you hit that with one pop miner, then there would be no benefit to running additional pop miners. if you ran 5 pop miners and collectively they added up to that maximum, then it was beneficial to run multiple pop miners because each of them did some keystones and collectively they added up to give you the total that gets you the maximum allocation of points for pop mining for that day. But if you're, and again, we'll announce the pop points should be live by the end of the week, and you'll actually be able to see like a full audit of each day, how many pop points you earned, and what you did to get those. So the number of keystones versus the average number of keystones that people were mining that day, so on and so forth. Most of the rewards that you can earn per day will be distributed based on you performing the same number of pop publications, or more pedantically, mining unique keystones compared to what everybody else on the network running a single pop miner was able to do during that time. But there will be some additional incentives for people who did go and run their own BFG instance to increase reliability and throughput. So if you're doing all that custom work and running tons of pop miners, there will be some benefit because you'll have more keystones and you can get those, squeeze those final points out of the allocation. But the majority of the points will be for just basically being with the pack for the number of pop transactions, the number of keystones mined that everybody else was able to do during that day. So should have a full audit basically that shows you all the points you've earned to date per day and how you got to that allocation versus the maximum. And then you could adjust pop mining for the final few weeks of testnet based on that information. But high level, you'll get the lion's share of the maximum you could have earned for running a pop miner that performed similar to other people's pop miners on that same day.
Awesome. And much like every edition of Midweek with Max, there's one more question, but I promise this is the last one. I'm so sorry. They keep coming in.
Oh, no worries.
But we had to close the thread because of the volume. Many popular influencers are sharing Hemi referral codes and have become the top addresses on the leaderboard without any transactions. This makes it hard for normal users to participate with the network. Will there, or is there, anything that can be done regarding this?
Good question. So people, the referral code system is in place for a reason. It's if those people are bringing a lot of people to the network who are testing it and getting involved, that's creating a lot of value for the network. And so we want to reward them for it. What we will be doing though is if you did refer people with a referral code, whether that's 3 people or 1,000, you're only going to get points for the ones that themselves survived the decibel process, basically. So anyone who used a referral code to farm tons of points with Sybil accounts that are not going to pass the Damos verification, they will not get those downstream points as part of their allocation. So it'll be individuals for doing tasks will get points based on the maximum that a unique human was able to earn per day for the different task categories. And then people who referred them will only get their point allocation for those referrals if those people downstream basically pass that verification.
All right. So in other words, take that, robots. No offense to you, Sasha. You're great. All right. So that actually does bring us to the end of questions. I know I'm as surprised as you are. Before I pass it to our co-founder, Max, and our head of Marcoms, Batman, I have to thank our helpers and our mods. Of course, Anubis, Ajit, Alex, Avi, Creator, Foxstar, Funky, Hadu, Koki, Lyco, No Tears, Yahoos, and the intern, who apparently is getting his own show with an AI robot. So this is why I'm gray. This is why my hair is going gray, for the record. I just have to be really clear about that. This kid is aging me like 50 years. So, yeah, it's great. All right. So with that, that brings us to the close of this week's Midweek with Max. I want to thank you all so much for attending. As always, we'll be putting the full episode up on our YouTube channel, as well as like some clips on social media. So, yeah, that's it for me. Passing over to my colleagues, Max and Phil.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for attending. Stay tuned for a lot of exciting announcements coming in the next week or two. And huge shout out to the moderators, and we'll see everyone next week.
Yeah, I want to see everybody online. I want to see everybody sharing our news. I want everybody to feel like they're part of this process and every bit as proud of our progress as we are. So I'll see you guys online.
All right. Take care, y'all. We'll see you in Discord, on socials, and all the other digital things. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All the things.
All the things.